So I want to understand credit card as a saving instrument. Who should use what kind of card?
Is a fantastic card which gives you 40,000 points and 10,000 rupees worth of Taj vouchers on spending just a year. As a 30-year-old, if you have diabetes, you are uninsurable for life. That's why it becomes very important कि आप जब से आप कमाना शुरू कर दो, you should cover yourself in health insurance. Personally, I am 35 years old today. I have a 1 crore cover for myself. My wife has a 75 lakhs cover for her.
For 1 crore plus 75 lakhs, how much premium are you paying?
For both of us around. You will always get a loan to travel, to buy a car, to buy
Correct.
a house. You will not get a loan for retirement. Retirement, saving or financial freedom, you can call it anything. That is the most important financial goal and the topmost priority for anyone.
आप यहाँ तक कैसे पहुँचे? 2020 में आपने जॉब क्विट किया, but what was your journey before that and what happened after that?
So I'm a chartered accountant by qualification and right before my CA final exams, my dad passed away.
कोई आज की डेट में 25 लाख किसी की सेविंग्स हैं, ऑलरेडी इन्वेस्टमेंट्स हैं, उसको 1 करोड़ का कॉर्पस बनाना है, तो वो कैसे बनाए? इफ समबडी कम्स टू यू टुडे एंड सेज दैट आई एम अर्निंग लेट्स से 2 लाख रुपीस, आई हैव अ लॉट ऑफ एक्सपेंसेस, how do you approach that client? Like, what do you do to increase their savings?
She did not have any savings in financial assets, so we had to create a budget for her and tell her that this is the variable expenses, you should not overshoot and you invest this amount every month. Now in 5 years, she's accumulated more than 1 crore in financial assets.
Hi Niraj.
Hi Rimisha, thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for being on the Quiet Reset podcast. I'm looking forward to this conversation because whenever I think of reset, and this entire podcast is about, resetting your life. So finance becomes the basis for everything, right? So when people talk about peace of mind or I talk about health, all of that happens when your finances are sorted. Otherwise, it just doesn't build up. So I want to focus on 3 things during this course of conversation. One is on expenses and how do we start saving more, because लाइफस्टाइल चेंज करना बहुत मुश्किल होता है लोगों का, एंड जहाँ पर भी लोग सेव करना चाहते हैं, आई फील की इंटेंशन होती है बट दे डोंट नो हाउ टू डू इट. सो बिकॉज यू एक्सटेंसिवली टॉक अबाउट क्रेडिट कार्ड, सो आई वांट टू अंडरस्टैंड क्रेडिट कार्ड एज अ सेविंग इंस्ट्रूमेंट. दैट्स फर्स्ट, एंड ऑफ कोर्स विल टॉक अबाउट द रिस्क्स ऑल्सो विद क्रेडिट कार्ड्स बिकॉज दैट्स अनदर पेंडोरा बॉक्स. Second thing is I want to talk about insurances, and we'll go in details of health insurance probably, and if you could cover that. And lastly, about investments, because there are a lot of avenues to invest. But if I have one single ambition of, let's say, financial freedom, what should I do, right? So we'll talk about these 3 aspects during the course of our conversation. So let's start with savings, right? So if somebody comes to you today with X amount of income and X amount of saving, one, how do you approach to increase their savings? So what are the different instruments, and specifically then credit cards?
So when it comes to expenses, Nimisha, there are 2 categories of expenses. One is your fixed expenses, one is variable expenses. You can't really do much as far as your fixed expenses are concerned. You have rental expense, you have your utility expenses, maintenances, and if any maids you have hired, groceries, those are fixed costs, right? What can change here? Just a very good example of one of our clients, right? Obviously, you can't tell a client to do that. I mean, you can give them subtle hints, but they don't like to hear these things.
Okay.
But if you don't have enough financial assets, not even say 1 crore rupees in financial assets and a stable job, okay, you can't really live in a house that has a monthly rent of 1 lakh and above, right? So you can definitely work on your fixed expenses as well. People want to live in a expensive rented apartment because they have those kind of friends, but they don't have any assets to back. Give you a very good example from one of our clients living in an apartment that cost 3 lakh rupees per month.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Then we have those apartments in Hyderabad also.
No, of course you
we
have,
them
but
in Bombay and
I'm just, I got surprised considering that somebody who really needs financial planning and help, if they're spending at that amount, so I mean.
Yeah. So now you think about it, they lost their job after that. I mean, they lost their job and they had some savings which also got depleted now, but they're still living in that same apartment because they think that they can change their finances. Now, if you were not living in that apartment and if you were living in an apartment that cost 1 lakh rupees per month, the 2 lakh rupees differential in 5 years, you would have accumulated just 1.2 crores just in principal.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So Definitely you can reduce your fixed expenses, but it depends on person to person. If you're living in a 40,000 rupees rented apartment, that's fine, right? You will not get a decent apartment below that, which is fine. But if you're living in a 3 lakhs apartment, you will get a good enough apartment in 50 to 75,000 also. So it's all about the compromises and priorities you are ready to make, right? Then variable expenses. Variable expenses is something is where you should figure out what you want to achieve and prioritize what you want to do financially, what you want to achieve financially. If you want to continue spending 10,000 rupees a week just on ordering in, and then on travel, then on random things which you don't need, then obviously you'll not be able to save.
A lot of shopping.
Yeah. So I'll give you one more example of another ex-colleague of mine. So she did not have any savings in financial assets before she started became our client, and she was obviously spending whatever she earned, right? Apart from the provident fund savings, there was barely anything to talk about, right? Now in 5 years, we worked out a strategy for her. We told her that okay, you can spend so much on fixed expenses were okay, variable expenses were the problem. So we had to create a budget for her and tell her that this is the variable expenses that you should not overshoot beyond this, and you invest this amount every month. And she's probably the most consistent client for us as far as the investing is concerned. She's not skipped her SIP even a month.
So she's disciplined in that sense.
Absolutely disciplined. She's accumulated more than 1 crore in financial assets
in within 5 years.
In 5 years.
Very interesting. So and approximately how much is she investing a month?
So when she started, she was making around 18 to 20 lakhs per year. Now
Okay.
She must be making around 35-40 lakhs per year. The problem is not with how much money you make. The problem is only with the intention. Do I want to save money? Because when you carve out a budget, that's why what we ask our client is first tell me how much you are making and where are you spending your money. So we send you a detailed Excel sheet to tell me the breakup of your expenses. So we have a separate bucket for fixed expenses, we have a separate bucket for variable expenses. And if you're not able to, if the variable expenses is higher, that's where you need to focus on.
Do you also get clients where they are, you don't need to really fix their expenses and it's just about, just investing, right?
Definitely. I mean, there are people come with certain backgrounds, right, wherein they've not learned to spend money.
Yeah.
Right. So then they are just spending only on the basics.
And they're not living very nicely.
They may be living in a good house, but they're not going out every week.
They're not enjoying as such, like.
We don't know that, right? You can enjoy by not spending money.
नहीं आप कभी किसी को बोलते हो क्या कि थोड़ा और spend कर दो, you have money to spend.
We have clients who are financially free, who have a job they love. We have to tell them that it's okay to spend more money. So you will get all types of people.
Very interesting.
And we in fact tell them that you can start flying business class.
Right?
Oh
wow.
Because after a certain point in time when you've hit financial freedom and you love what you're doing, you're making active income, money is a tool to spend, right? Money is just a tool to live your life. Okay, it has to be spent, right? It's meant to be spent. It's meant to be spent, but again, not for someone who does not have anything. When you have enough, then you should definitely live your life, enjoy your life, experience the finer things in life. There's no point hoarding beyond the point.
Very interesting. Okay, so how does credit card fit into this, and why I'm bringing credit card is for two reasons. One, because of course you're an expert into this domain and you've spoken on your YouTube channel also extensively about this, but also because I personally feel very confused about cards, right? So on one hand, a person like me is very cautious. I don't want to fall into the debt trap, so I try to not, probably I'm not utilizing that tool properly. Secondly, there's also a lot of information which I see online, social media, wherein people are just encouraging people to spend and rely on credit card too much, right? Okay. And not every credit card is accessible to everybody. So if I have to understand credit card as an instrument, firstly, what would you say? Secondly, who should use what kind of cards?
Perfect. So credit cards have got a very bad reputation because from what experiences our parents had. Again, my father used to use credit cards, but he would not default on it.
My parents don't own a card. They don't have a credit card.
But my wife's parents have had credit card debt. And that's why she had bad experiences from it and bad memories. And I had to train her to, use credit cards in a better way. So again, your opinion of a product completely is dependent on what experiences you've had with it, right? You will see people telling you कि stock market तो जुआ है, right? Why? Because they've lost money.
And they've treated it as a jua.
Yes,
And they've
exactly,
lost
right?
money.
So your experiences completely determine your opinion about anything in life. So now, credit card is a fantastic money saving tool. Okay, somebody who's making 50,000 rupees per month and spending 40 out of it can save money on it, and somebody who's spending lakhs a month can also create wonderful experiences for himself. So now coming to how to approach credit cards, right? It's simply dependent on 2-3 factors. One is how much money you spend every month. Second is what kind of rewards do you want. Okay. Now, if you're spending less money, okay, say less than 50,000 a month. So I'll first take a step back and explain how do credit card rewards work. Okay. So credit card rewards are you get rewards in the form of cashbacks. Cashbacks either directly in your bank account or in the credit card statement or in a particular wallet. You get credit card rewards in the form of travel rewards, right?
Or points.
Points. So you use those points to book a hotel or book a flight, right? And the third could be using credit card rewards for gift vouchers.
Any other kind of
Anything else.
purchases,
Gift
right?
vouchers or redeeming them for a particular pen or a speaker, things like that, right? So in the hierarchy of these rewards, right, you get the maximum value towards travel. Okay, if you are able to redeem your credit card rewards for travel, you will get the maximum value on your spends. When I say value, value is basically the return on your spends. Return as in what is, say for example, if you're spending 100 rupees, how much value out of it you will get. So travel based cards can get you 10% reward rate. So 10 rupees of savings in the form of travel is what you get. Second is cashback rewards. Cashback, like I said, statement credit, money in bank account or money in a particular wallet. This also is a very good segment because you can get somewhere between 2% to 10% cashbacks, even 25% in some cases. The third is the worst category, which no one should focus on. So we'll not talk about that. Now, somebody who's spending 50,000 or less a month, or even say 75,000 or less a month in his early years of life and focused on saving money, you should be focused on cashback based cards because you need to spend a lot more money to earn travel based rewards. Okay, so if you're spending say 50,000 a month, if you can get 2-3 cards for different categories of spends, you can get a cashback of more than 5%.
Okay.
So if I say 5% or 50,000 of spend, this is 2,500 rupees saved. That 2,500 can be invested, right? Simple, very simple.
Yes,
because if I spend 50,000, I got 2,500 back in my credit
Bank
card
account,
statement.
yes.
So next month, that 2,500 rupees is
वो
less
तो
what I'm
adjust हो
spending,
गया, so that's
right?
2,500 is
तो आप वो
flat
invest
saving
कर
for
सकते
me.
हो.
Correct.
वो invest कर सकते हो, but वो कोई invest करता नहीं है. वो भी खर्च देते हैं.
Okay.
ठीक है. So now ठीक है. So cashback based cards is best cards for somebody who is just starting to spend, who spends less amount of money, senior citizens who are not going to travel a lot, right? Or people who don't like to travel.
Which are the cards for cashback? Good
There are
cards.
multiple cards. So SBI has a great set of cashback cards. SBI has recently launched SBI Phone Pay card, which gives you 10% cashback on utility bill payments.
Okay.
Axis has a card called the Axis Airtel card, which gives you 25% cashback on making the payment towards Airtel bills. Right? Then you have the ICICI Amazon Pay card, which gives you 5% cashback on Amazon spends. You have the SBI cashback card, which gives you 5% cashback on all online
All
spends.
online, yeah.
So there are many such cashback cards. Pick a couple based on your spends and you're sorted.
So, can anybody just apply for this card? These kind of
You
cards?
need to have an active income. Okay.
Of course, income.
Yeah. So if you firstly active income and a decent credit score, when you start out on your credit card journey, you may not be eligible even for these cards.
Why so?
Because there is no credit score, right? There's no credit history.
Okay.
So to build a credit history, you can opt for an FD-backed credit card, just to start your journey.
Okay.
It's very important that everybody builds a credit history. Even if you're somebody who does not like credit cards, should be using it simply for the sake of building credit history, because in future you may want to take a home loan, you may want to take a car loan, right? And your credit history is not built. There is no credit score, and there is no history of you being good as far as good creditor.
So it's like a proof that you have been good on your repayment.
Good on repayment of your debts, right? So you have to create that so that you are eligible for home loans at the lowest rate possible, car loans.
What's a good credit score?
Anything above 750 should be good.
Okay.
So that's why everybody should have credit cards. If you're not able to get anything, just get
The
an FD
basic
backed
one
credit
you can
card.
have.
If you put an FD of 25,000 rupees, somewhere between 70 to 90% of that will be a credit limit. All banks do it, right? There's no,
Yeah.
you don't have to
I
pick a
think as
particular
soon as
card.
you open a bank account, they offer you a basic credit card anyway,
Yeah, you
right?
can just take that also
Yeah.
to start your journey. And
Got
then
it.
once your income increases, you build a certain credit score, that's when you can start applying for higher, better cards.
Okay. Second category was the travel card that you were
Yeah.
mentioning.
So now travel category is the best category wherein you get the maximum rewards. You can go as high as 30-40% on
Oh
certain
wow,
cards.
really?
Okay. And that's when you start focusing as a young person once your expenses also cross a certain threshold. Because if you are spending 50,000 a month, 50% of it may be just rental. And most cards don't give you any rewards for rental payments. So, and you are not eligible for those cards which give you rewards on rental payments. So you're only spending 20-25,000 on balance category, so you will not be able to generate enough to travel, right? Say you spend 25,000 a month, you get 10% on that, just 2,500 rupees a month, right? 30,000 in a year, cannot compensate for travel as much as spending higher amounts of money will do that, right? So if you're spending good amount of money, say 75,000 and above, then travel cards play a decent role.
And when we say spending, so it could be on any kind of utility or any kind of online, like
Anything,
depending on the card.
anything. So, for example, American Express Platinum Travel Card, in fact, is a fantastic card which gives you 40,000 points and 10,000 rupees worth of Taj vouchers on spending just 4 lakh rupees a year.
Just 4 lakh a year?
Yes.
Oh, why are we not having that card yet? So I have a American Express ka Sapphire wala card hai mere paas, but I don't think the rewards are very good on that ICICI wala.
The three cards are
Yeah.
good in the MX stable: the American Express Platinum Travel Card, Gold Charge Card, and the Membership Rewards Card. And all these three cards are not being issued right now.
Oh, yeah, that's another issue.
Yeah. So whoever has it, right? I'm saying even with lesser expenses, if you had this card, you could have gotten these points, right? Now, 10,000 rupees of Taj voucher can definitely get you one night in a mid-category Taj property.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's one way of looking at it. But if you're someone who wants to do longer holidays and international holidays, then you definitely need to spend more to accumulate those rewards.
Got it.
And the mid-size category of cards, you have to pay a fee also on these cards. There is a very big block in people in paying fees for a credit card also.
Correct.
They don't see the value that they get on paying the fees. Free card will not give you
So
the value.
basically, a card should also be approached very strategically. So you're paying X amount, you see how much reward you could be one eligible for, and based on your expenses, you know ki itna to mujhe, I'm going to get returns on
Absolutely.
this. So that's how you should look at it.
Yes. So you have to understand the basics here again, right? कि कितना मैं पे कर रहा हूँ, कितना spend करने से what kind of rewards will I get, what will be the reward rate on my spends and so on. All these things take time to understand, but once you have figured it, then you don't even it's in your head कि कौन से spend के लिए कौन सा card use करना है. If you can just keep it simple also, just have a couple of cards and you're sorted, right? But people are not ready to make those efforts also. Just to so now coming to cards, right? What kind of cards you can get? So mid category to premium cards is where you will get travel based rewards. The lower end category generally focuses on cashbacks and stuff like that. So you have Axis cards, ICICI cards, HDFC, Amex, all these have cards which can give you travel based rewards.
Got it. And a lot of times, we get fascinated by the stories on the internet that, I was able to probably do like a lot of travel with one card. One, aapki, I'm sure, hogi aisi stories. But secondly, I also want you to probably address where the question should come. Because मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि कई बार, let's say I don't need to spend so much, but I'm just spending for the sake of that reward. So वो भी cases होते होंगे, right?
बिल्कुल होते हैं. तो जब when we create a credit card plan also for our clients, basically we'll tell them which cards to use, right? We do it based on the spends that they have. We don't do it just to hit certain milestones. Okay?
ये नहीं कि आप spend करना ज़्यादा कर दो.
हाँ, for example, अगर कोई कार्ड है जिसका माइलस्टोन है 15 lakhs का, बट आपके खर्चे ही 10 लाख के हैं, तो मैं आपको वो कार्ड रिकमेंड नहीं करूंगा. Because what I want you to do, firstly focus on your income, try to increase it as much as possible, then invest the money every month that you've committed. उसके बाद जो बच रहा है उसको कहीं भी खर्च करो, doesn't matter, right? You can spend it on a holiday one month, you can spend it on a restaurant in another month, the third month you can spend it on shopping, doesn't really matter, right? As long as you're disciplined with your monthly investments. So that's once you've set that aside, right? कि मैं इतना तो invest करूँगा, जो बचेगा वो खर्चूंगा, then credit card becomes a very good tool to plan. But आप उल्टा जाओ, अगर आप बोलो कि ये क्रेडिट कार्ड है और इसका माइलस्टोन 15 लाख, और ये माइलस्टोन मुझे हिट करना ही है क्योंकि इसमें मुझे रिवॉर्ड्स मिलेंगे, देन यू आर नॉट यूजिंग द कार्ड्स
The
करेक्टली.
right way. Okay. Tell me your crazy credit card story.
So I've been in this space for 7-8 years now. I started using credit cards properly when I understood the game, and I have had multiple experiences. Multiple. So again, when it comes to travel-based rewards, also Nimisha, you have to decide what kind of experiences you want. Do you want the most luxurious experiences, or do you want a budget-friendly experience but a longer holiday? Okay. So just to give you an example, the MX Platinum travel card that you were talking about. So if both husband and wife have it, as a family, you spend 8 lakhs in a year and you make 80,000 points plus some more on the normal. So let's assume around 1 lakh points in a year. Okay, and you get 20,000 rupees worth of Taj vouchers. So now these 1 lakh points can be converted into 58,000 rupees worth of Taj vouchers or 1 lakh Marriott points. Let's take Taj for example. Okay, so if you had 58,000 Taj vouchers
Plus
plus
20.
another 10,000 that you get from MX, total 68,000 rupees worth of Taj vouchers. So when you have 68,000 rupees worth of Taj vouchers, you can either opt one night in Taj Falaknuma,
Falaknuma,
right, 1 or 2 nights, depending on the season, or you can opt 5 nights in a mid-category Taj property.
Like let's say in Goa, whatever.
Yeah, Goa is still expensive. Let's say
Kahin
Taj Banjara in Hyderabad, right? So it depends on what kind of experience you want. I am personally focused on the most luxurious experiences with my credit card points because I can always pay for the mid-tier segments.
Right.
So
That won't hurt you as much, but this
Correct.
one you
I
will
will-
probably never go and do it
Absolutely.
directly,
I don't
right?
want to pay 50,000 rupees per night,
correct.
in cash.
Correct.
But if my credit card rewards can compensate me for that, I will happily do it because I want to experience those things. So business class flights, living in these luxurious hotels is what I aim at. So I've done a property in Dubai called Al Maha that costs like $2,000 to $3,000 per night.
Okay.
We've done it through American Express points. Then it costs like 1 lakh, 1 to 1.4 lakh
4
points
lakh.
a night. So if you husband and wife have accumulated MX points, 1 lakh points per year, in 2 years you can do like 2 nights.
The points don't expire that
MX
easily?
points don't expire,
Don't
other
expire.
points do. So you have to be
Again, be
about
mindful of that, right?
So again, like I said, experiences completely depend on what you want. Somebody may say that I want to live in a budget hotel. I want to pay less number of points per night, but use all the points for a 7 nights holiday in a certain country. That's also okay. It's completely on yours. So we've done my wife and I both focus on these luxury experiences. And also, it's not that you have to give a lot of points for luxury vacations as well if you're a little bit smart. So a lot of these newly launched properties, right? What they will do is as an inaugural offer, they give you a redemption night at a very low cost. So for example, there is a property in West Rishikesh called the Westin Rishikesh. The per night cost when it was launched was 35 to 40,000 rupees per night, but I ended up booking 5 nights just for 68,000 points. So the value per point that I got
Redemption
was
was
almost
much
2
higher.
rupees
2
per
rupees,
night.
yeah.
And then they threw in a free breakfast also for 5 nights. So that's how you have to be, a little bit more active if you want to use your credit cards for better points. Otherwise, you can hire people to do it for you. There are a lot of independent consultants also who help you utilize your points.
Very interesting. So, because the best of credit cards are not available anymore, जैसे MX का आप बता रहे थे, right now अगर मुझे focus करना है on, let's say, travel and luxury, for example, what should I do? Like, कौन सा card होना चाहिए?
Depends on your income because cards have eligibility, right? So if income is say 1 lakh rupees per month, then there is a card from HSBC called the HSBC Travel One. Axis is a card called the Axis Horizon. ICICI cards are a little bit higher requirement of income. So ICICI has a couple of cards called ICICI Times Black and Emerald Private Metal. All the HDFC premium cards like the HDFC Infinia, Diners Black Metal require higher income. Right, so depends on your income, and based on that you apply.
So let's say if I have a good income, I can just apply and the cards would be available.
Yes.
या फिर और भी कुछ criteria?
So certain cards are by invite only. Like for example, the HDFC Infinia card. If you go to HDFC's website, they'll say by invite only. But offline, they'll say that we need a in-hand income of 5 lakh rupees per month, right? And certain cards can be directly applied. Just if you have your pay slips with you, just apply. They may or may not ask for your payslip. That is again dependent on the issuer.
Got it. Very interesting. And what should people be cautious about credit card use करते time? One thing we spoke about, don't overspend just to use the points. Second is of course be cautious of आप कहाँ use कर रहे हो points को, उसको maximize करो utility को. But और भी कुछ है जैसे like
सिंपल है, आई थिंक एवरीबडी नोज दिस बाय नाउ कि आप जब क्रेडिट कार्ड बिल नहीं पे करोगे तो जो इंटरेस्ट चार्ज होता है दैट इज समवेयर बिटवीन 3 to 4% a month, which is like 36% to 48% per year. So if you have overspent, the simple thumb rule is just call the issuer and ask them to convert your credit card bill into an EMI.
okay.
That's what they, इससे क्या होगा ना, आपका इंटरेस्ट कॉस्ट कम हो जाएगा. तो ईएमआई का इंटरेस्ट कॉस्ट इज गोइंग टू बी समवेयर अराउंड 14-15%. अगर आप बिल नहीं पे करो और उसको खाली मिनिमम अमाउंट भी पे करो, यू विल बी चार्ज इंटरेस्ट एट अ वेरी हाई रेट. सो फर्स्टली डोंट ओवरस्पेंड. सेकेंडली, इवन इफ यू हैव ओवरस्पेंट एंड डोंट हैव द मनी
To repay.
to repay, redeem your investments and repay. Because 15% आपको कोई भी इन्वेस्टमेंट इंस्ट्रूमेंट जनरेट करके नहीं देगा. अगर आपको लगता है कि स्टॉक मार्केट से मेरे 15% बन जाएंगे, यू आर लिविंग इन अ बबल. जस्ट बिकॉज लास्ट 5 years
I want to talk about that now.
उसका ये मतलब नहीं कि आगे बने. लास्ट 5 years में बने बिकॉज वी स्टार्टेड एट अ वेरी लो बेस.
Yeah.
राइट. सो दैट्स व्हाट पीपल नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड. अगर आपका कोई भी लोन, फॉरगेट अबाउट क्रेडिट कार्ड लोन, 10% से ज्यादा की कॉस्ट में है, then you should not be investing. You should be first focused on prepaying them.
What are the tools that an individual, and we are not talking about a very rich person here, let's consider a normal person who's going to office, who's earning probably 1 lakh 2 lakh a month. What are the tools at their disposal for wealth creation?
So Nimisha, I think these days everybody is aware about the tools that are available to invest, right? Because of the mass marketing that has happened post COVID. If you see what are the common tools that were available 15-20 years back, mostly people were investing in fixed deposits or LIC policies and these kind of tools, right? Real estate, gold, the traditional formats. Then mutual funds also started somewhere in the 90s, but people were not too educated about mutual funds. The real education about mutual funds happened post COVID only. So mutual funds is a very great tool, probably the best tool according to me to invest in the financial markets or invest your money. But there are so many tools to invest that as an investor or as a normal person who is earning a salary, you are confused कि मैं किसमें invest करूँ. I recently did a study and I found out that there are more than 25 different investment vehicles available for a person to invest.
Oh wow.
Starting from investment for HNIs to people in the bottom of the pyramid, right? So like HNI is requiring minimum ticket size of 1 crore rupees to invest in a certain specific vehicle, right? To anybody who can invest in mutual funds with just 500 rupees as a starting token. So the problem is not about the awareness of these vehicles. The problem is about the selection, which is the right tool for it. Because now with the advent of social media influencers, people are being sold the wrong things. तो आपको समझ नहीं आता है कि ये बंदा जो मुझे बता रहा है ये सही है
या नहीं.
So सबसे important चीज for anybody who is starting their investment journey is first to understand what not to do rather than understanding what to do. क्योंकि एक बार आप ये लिस्ट बना लोगे ना कि मुझे ये चीजें नहीं करनी है और बेसिक समझ जाओगे फाइनेंस के कि हाउ डज मनी वर्क, हाउ डज रिटर्न ऑन माय इन्वेस्टमेंट वर्क, how should I understand risk? Okay, when you put your return expectation on a spectrum of risk, starting from no risk to extremely high risk, and then start understanding ki, okay, if I put my money in a government vehicle like a public provident fund, this is a zero risk investment. To putting money where I am promised 15% per year in a fixed income instrument, that is a high risk vehicle, right? So people are not able to first comprehend this ki risk kya hai. So there is a lot of gap in the financial in the industry, I mean in India, about financial literacy itself. क्योंकि सबको एक ही बात समझ में आती है, इन्वेस्टमेंट मतलब फटाफट रिटर्न का. इन्वेस्टमेंट इज नॉट अबाउट अर्निंग रिटर्न, राइट? So this is where we need to focus as doing the reset, right? Ki how to think about money, how to understand risk, how do I invest my money based on different financial goals, right? So once people get an understanding, then you will be able to change your financial life. क्योंकि अभी तो रिस्क का ही अंडरस्टैंडिंग नहीं. I'll just give you an example. 40-year-old client recently onboarded has reasonable amount of assets, okay, somewhere around say 4-5 crores of total assets, largely in real estate. They don't have any financial assets at all. What do I mean by financial assets? Money in bank,
Bank,
money
yeah.
in mutual funds, stocks, and so on. So it becomes very important for largely everybody to first cover your risks, right? So what is the risk that both of us carry on a day-to-day basis? Risk of getting hospitalized, right? So what do you do to cover that risk?
Insurances.
Health insurance. So we told that client that, boss, you only have a health insurance from your employer.
Acha.
Now the risk is that once you quit your job, you will not get that insurance. Then if you are diagnosed with any issue at that time, then you become uninsurable. So it becomes important that you have it from now and then keep it for the rest of your life. Consider it as an expense. But he didn't end up buying that health insurance because he said, I will buy it later. So pushing smaller things to a later stage costs a lot of money.
Okay, so I mean, I have a lot of questions just as you were speaking. Um, एक बार पहले हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस को थोड़ा सा क्लैरिफाई करते हैं बिकॉज आई ऑल्सो यूज टू बिलीव अर्लियर लॉन्ग बैक दैट वट एवर माई एम्प्लॉयर इज कवरिंग इज इनफ लेट्स से 5 लाख का इंश्योरेंस है इनफ है ऑफ लेट ऑफ कोर्स बिकॉज आई वॉज वर्किंग इन फाइनेंशियल इंडस्ट्री तो मेरे को भी समझ में आया कि उतना इनफ नहीं है एक्चुअली में वो पूरा कवर भी नहीं होता है मतलब सारे डिजीज में आपको पूरा 5 लाख मिलेगा भी नहीं एंड द हेल्थ इंडस्ट्री द एक्सपेंसेस आर इंक्रीजिंग ड्रास्टिकली राइट सो now if I'm a 25-year-old person, do I need a health insurance other than, let's say, whatever my employer is covering at 25? Let's be very specific.
So think about it like this, Nimsha. When my employer is providing me a health insurance, he is providing me a perquisite, a benefit, right? Now that benefit, whatever he is providing, has to fit his budget, correct? So when it has to fit his budget, health insurance, especially coming from employer, is called a group insurance. And group insurance products can be modified according to your budget. So you can say that my budget is this. I want to provide X amount of insurance to my employees, and tell me what will suit my budget. And the manufacturer, which is the insurer, will create a product for the employer. तो अब उसमें अगर उसने एक क्लॉज ऐड कर दिया कि को पेमेंट है या सिंगल रूम रेंट लिमिट है, सो देन व्हाट इट मींस इज कि आपका अगर 5 लाख का इंश्योरेंस है तो आपको पूरा 5 लाख का क्लेम नहीं मिलेगा अगर जब भी आप हॉस्पिटलाइज हो रहे हो. यू विल हैव टू pay something from your pocket. That's number one. ठीक है, that's your number one risk is that आपका employer का insurance will not pay 100% of your hospital bill. Second thing, think about a tail risk. What is a tail risk for a 25-year-old?
An accident.
Accident, right? Accident means 20-25 days of hospitalization, right? तो अगर ऐसा कोई एक्सीडेंट हो रहा है और आप लंबे समय तक हॉस्पिटल में हो, आपका एम्प्लॉयर का जो कवर है तो 5 लाख का ही है. That will probably cover just the surgery part. Right? What about the rest of the stay? What about the rehab that you need after the hospitalization, right? In these cases, your hospital bill and the total cost, tends to be more than 20-30 lakhs also. So that's why you need a personal health insurance. Another thing is the longer term, cover for health insurance. Irrespective of how much money you have in your pocket, right? It is very important that you have a health insurance because the cost to cover your health is very low in India. Okay, so even if you have reasonably good amount of financial assets and total assets, even if you are financially free, even those people tend to buy a health insurance because they understand that if a big hospital bill comes, the cost to cover this is very, very low for them, right? And like I said earlier in our conversation, if you are diagnosed with anything, then after that you will not get a health insurance.
Correct.
So, let's take a simple example. As a 30-year-old, if you have diabetes, you are uninsurable for life in India. That's why it becomes very important कि आप जब से आप कमाना शुरू कर दो, you should cover yourself in health insurance. Ideally, your parents.
What if you declare कि मेरे को डायबिटीज है तो वो 2-3 साल बाद कवर नहीं होता?
It depends on age. अगर आप 30 years old हो और आपको डायबिटीज हो गया, which means you are a high risk case for the insurer. तो नहीं मिलेगा इंश्योरेंस. बट आप 50 years old हो, आपको तब डायबिटीज हुआ तो मिल जाएगा इंश्योरेंस, राइट? सो एट द एंड ऑफ द डे पीपल थिंक कि मैंने इंश्योरेंस पॉलिसी खरीद लिया, नाउ इट इज माय राइट टू गेट एन इंश्योरेंस क्लेम. दैट्स नॉट हाउ इट वर्क्स. इट्स अ फॉर प्रॉफिट इंडस्ट्री. यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड the insurer who is doing the business is doing to make money, not doing it to pay you claims.
Correct.
So they want to insure healthy people. They don't want to take risk on their books, right? So this is how it works. Once you get this understanding, then you will be able to buy a health insurance. Personally, I am 35 years old today. I have a 1 crore cover for myself. My wife has a 75 lakhs cover for herself.
Acha, okay.
Right? And despite her being covered from her employer, I run my own business, so we don't have an employer insurance. We do provide individual insurances to our employees, but apart from that, despite her, all of us being covered from my wife's employer, we have this big covers as well.
Got it. And for 1 crore plus 75 lakhs, how much premium are you paying
The
approximately?
total outflow should be around, now that GST cut was in place last month, the total cost for both of us is around 40,000 per year.
Got it. Got it. Which is a basically treated as an expense towards your future health.
Absolutely. Think about it like this. If both of us are earning 40 lakh rupees per year, okay, that's just 1% of my total income going towards covering my health. Okay? Even if I were to pay a total of 10-15 lakhs over the next 20 years in health insurance premium, one single hospital bill will take care of that premium paid.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
And it's not about that. I do not want to end up in the hospital at all.
Of course.
Right? So I'm just covering my risk. When you drive a car, why do you buy a car insurance? Because you know that there is a consistent risk of meeting with an accident, right? You know that there is a consistent risk of getting hospitalized, irrespective of you being healthy. You don't know what may come up in the future, right? This is not in something not in your control. What is in your control to take care of your health? What is not in your control, the surprises that life may throw up at you, and you're covering that. Life insurance is another great example. People are not ready to insure their lives. The cost has barely increased in the last 10 years as far as term insurance is concerned. I am paying 8,000 rupees per crore for a policy that I bought like 7-8 years back or 10 years back. And now I'm increasing my my life insurance cover. And the new premium for me for 1 crore is around 12,000-13,000 rupees only.
A year.
A year. So if I were to buy another 3 crores of cover today, the total outflow for me is around 35,000.
So honestly, 12-13,000 आज के रेट में लोग एक रेस्टोरेंट बिल में स्पेंड कर देते हैं, right?
Correct. One weekend you end up spending 12,000
More than that,
rupees.
correct.
So now you think about it like this. If I have dependents, okay, we recently had a baby, so now that baby is dependent on me, right? So it's important that I should have enough life insurance cover to cover the near-term risk. What is the near-term risk? Something were to happen to the parent, then the baby gets enough support financially, right? Emotional support cannot be, you cannot compensate for that emotional loss, but financial loss can be compensated. So इसमें क्या है, आप सोचो ऐसे 1 करोड़ का बेनिफिट मिलेगा जस्ट एट अ कॉस्ट ऑफ 12,000 रुपीज, राइट? तो ये भी लोग नहीं खरीद पाते हैं, उन्हें लगता है कि ये कॉस्ट है, मुझे कुछ नहीं होगा.
बट अगर ऐसे सोचें कि 12,000 अभी है, अगेन इट्स अ गेम ऑफ प्रोबेबिलिटी, राइट? सो फॉर एग्जाम्पल इफ आई बिलीव कि 10 साल तक आई एम गोइंग टू बी अलाइव, नाउ इन 10 years आई एम गोइंग टू पे व्हाट 12 lakhs or 1,20,000 rupees only. Okay, so that is how we have to look at it. So okay,
Absolutely.
if I'm 35 today,
if I'm 35 today and I bought a policy till the age of 60, okay, now the idea is that I'm covering my near term risk. Once I am 50, 55, I may have made enough money that my family does not need a term insurance cover, so I can always stop paying that premium.
got it.
The cost is for the next 5 to 10 years, which is the bigger risk, right, compared to the last 5 to 10 years. That's how you should look at these things, and not buy policies which are longer in tenure, which cover you till the age of 80, 85, 90, 95. Because firstly, the cost is high. Second is you don't need money after the age of 60. Your dependents don't need money once they start earning.
Correct.
And also the value of 1 crore after 50 years is going to be very, very
very
less.
low. Got it. So one of the conversation just now was about covering the risk, which is the basics for financial reset, you're saying. And you mentioned there are about 25 kinds of investment assets available or investment instruments available for people along the spectrum for everybody, right? But all of this starts from having enough income or having enough savings. So what would you, if somebody comes to you today and says that I'm earning, let's say, 2 lakh rupees and I have a lot of expenses, how do you approach that client? Like, what do you do to increase their saving? Because saving होगा तभी तो invest कर पाएंगे, right?
बिल्कुल.
So what do you do about that?
So पहले तो let's spend a couple of more minutes on risk, right? How do you cover your risk? Firstly, as a normal salaried person, you have to understand कि what are the risks that are applicable to me on a day-to-day basis. हॉस्पिटलाइजेशन हमने कवर कर लिया, हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस, लाइफ इंश्योरेंस हमने कवर कर लिया. उसके अलावा job loss is the third biggest risk for anybody, right? So what do you do? How do you cover that? By having an
Emergency
emergency
fund.
fund. So once you've set aside a decent emergency fund, so you will see online thumb rules कि 3 months का कर लो, 6 months का कर लो, but ideally 12 months plus worth of expenses should be there, so that कोई भी इशू हो आपके पास पैसे अलग से रखे हुए हैं, आप उसको यूज कर सको. The importance of an emergency fund keeps coming down as you grow in life, as your net worth keeps going up and up, right? Say once you've hit a financial assets net worth of 5 crore rupees, then that emergency fund may not play a very big role in your life compared to when you are starting, right? Or when you're starting, or when you have, say, just created a family. In those times, it is more important. So once you've set this aside, now somebody who is making 2 lakh rupees a month, trust me, is making a reasonable amount of money.
Okay.
2 lakhs, you can take it on a post-tax basis, pre-tax basis. It's either ways, it's a decent amount of money. You are probably in the top tier.
Yeah.
Okay, of people.
Probably
who are
top
making,
5% or even top 2%.
Yeah. So you're in the top tier. When we say top tier, so now it's the intention. Do I want to become financially free as soon as possible, or do I want to focus on my financial goals? Right. So the problem is that intention is not there. कि intention क्या होता है? The thing is that when you start making money, you start thinking about घर खरीदना है, गाड़ी खरीदना है, महंगा फोन खरीदना है, holidays करना है. But the problem today is that if you are not, the job market has become very competitive. So you have to be very skillful at keeping your job, right? Otherwise, somebody else will replace you at a low cost. Okay? We have had clients who lost jobs even after working for 10-15 years in that company. Okay, and this is a recent example.
Absolutely, that's a global phenomenon right now.
So then, firstly, wealth creation, financial freedom should be a priority for you. Unless it becomes a priority for you, you will not be able to save money. And saving money should start from the day you start making money. Okay, just because you are making 25,000 a month does not mean you should not save anything. Okay, before you started your job, you were not making any money. Somebody else was supporting you. Okay, and that person still exists, probably your parent, right? They were supporting you. So now that you've got a job, what has changed that you're not able to save something from that income? Right? Nothing has changed, right? Most people end up working where their parents are, so they're living with their parents. Even if you have to live in a rented house, even if to cover your fixed costs, you can at least save 5% of that income.
Absolutely.
Right? The problem is not about how much you save. The problem is the habit of saving, which there is a ongoing debate that in your 20s you should not be saving money and spend money on experiences,
YOLO.
spend money on learning, right?
Yeah.
But the problem is that, Nimisha, if you don't create that habit muscle of saving in your 20s, you will not be able to do that in your 30s and 40s, and which we have seen from people who become our clients at that age, not having any assets at all, and then it becomes very difficult for them to become disciplined as far as their savings and investments are concerned. Every few months they'll stop their SIPs because they have a travel planned or they've spent money on some big purchase.
Oh.
Right? So,
and you're talking about people in their late 30s and 40s.
Absolutely. So India is also going to have the retirement crisis which developed countries are facing, right? Simply because people think that everything is going to work out for me. Sure, it will work out for you, but are you putting those efforts to ensure that it's going to work out for you? I don't see that. People are happy with 5% increase in their salaries. You can't say my employer did not give me a raise, okay, and be okay with it. You have to figure out what exactly are you doing. You have to answer yourself. आप क्या कर रहे हो उसके लिए? Have you put in enough efforts to get that high raise of 10-15%, or did you not do that? Right? Are you trying to create another source of income for yourself, or are you just okay to watch Netflix in the evening? Small things add up to a lot. When I quit my job in 2020,
okay,
I tried many things. Okay, YouTube channel was one of the things. I started a newsletter. I even tried to write a book. I tried many things. Okay, I had a startup wherein we tried to create a finance community. So we tried many things. Certain things worked out for me. Okay. Now the YouTube channel itself, okay, I do have a big business which is like contributing 80 to 90% of my income. But the YouTube channel itself makes enough money that it can support a family. So are you ready to do that hard work or not, right? So the whole, coming to the start about saving money, right? It is about your intentions. आप habit create करो, उसके बाद देखो how things change for you. So even if you're making 25,000, just say 5% of that, which is 1250 rupees a year or a month. And every year with your increase in income, I'm just giving a very basic thumb rule. We can talk about higher savings rate and all that, but every year as your income goes up, increase that savings by the same amount of percentage. ठीक है, आपका
Absolutely.
income अगर 10% बढ़ रहा है तो आप उसको 5% से 5.5%
And there should be no reason to not be able to, right? Because आपका
Exactly.
income बढ़ रहा है,
Exactly.
तो आप क्यों आपकी saving नहीं बढ़ा पा रहे हो?
Exactly. Right?
Right.
So the point is that once you've created a reasonable financial assets base for you, right? Then the amount of flexibility you get in life to do things, you will be surprised कि मैं क्या क्या कर सकता हूँ once you have a base to take care of your day-to-day expenses. But if you don't save in your 20s, then what's going to happen? You will be dependent on your employer. क्योंकि आपने एक EMI create कर लिया होगा और आपकी फैमिली आप पे डिपेंडेंट रहेगी बिकॉज once you turn 30 you start you get married, you have kids, so you start adding dependents, right? And then you will not have the flexibility to do anything. So that's why I personally feel that everybody should save in their 20s. Save and invest, because once you do that, once you've created a base for yourself, you will get a lot of flexibility in your 30s. You can try a couple of new businesses, you can try, you can do a side hustle, you can do many things.
When you say a base, what does it mean? Just the emergency fund या फिर इतना जैसे for example I feel that मेरे को 2 साल का like now I have taken a leap of faith, right? I've quit my job. So I have been able to do that because I know कि for 2 years I'm covered. I don't have to worry, and 2 years is a good time to give myself to try out things. If it doesn't work out, I can always go back to jobs. So are you talking about that when you say base, something like that? कि ठीक है आपको एक पता है कि आपकी life sustain हो जाएगी with X amount of money.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it can be different for different people. For you, it's 2 years. For me, it was around 8 to 10 years of expenses in my
Got it.
investments
Got
when
it.
I quit my job.
Got
So I'd known from a long time that I don't want to be an employee for the rest of my life. Okay, but I was waiting to accumulate that decent amount of savings so that I can quit and I can experiment for a couple of years and see what works. And the good thing about my qualification is that I can get a job at any point in time, right? And that's what allowed me to do that. So now people may say that मुझे job नहीं मिलेगा या मैं क्या करूँ. You are just creating excuses for yourself. You have to try, you have to do the hard work, only then the results will come, and you have to do it consistently.
This brings me to an interesting question. You deal with so many clients, right? People, I think, from all kinds of backgrounds might be coming to you for you to help them in their financial journey, right? Have you seen this as a trend कि people जिनके खुद के businesses हैं या खुद का source of employment, source of income है, they tend to do better financially than the employees? Because काफ़ी debate होता है इस पे, because let's say if I had continued my job, I could have still earned like 5 lakhs a month in the in the near future, which keeps on increasing unless I'm kicked out of the job market, right? So वो scenario लोग consider नहीं करना चाहते हैं. I want to consider that I'm employable at all times. Do you think that it is still a better idea to have your own thing purely in terms of building wealth? I'm saying.
Absolutely. See, it's not that employees cannot get rich and wealthy, right? There are tons of examples of people who have gotten wealthy. But to get wealthy as an employee, there are two ways, okay? One is that you work in a company which gives you, rewards you in equity, right? It could be a startup or it could be a mid-sized company that rewards you in company and that rewards you in equity, but which has a very long path ahead of it of growth, right? So that equity can create a reasonable amount of wealth for you. You've seen so many people getting decent exits from startups, right? Even employees who were the first set of employees who got decent equity at the time of joining now are in a very good position. They are financially free. That's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is the normal route wherein you invest some amount of money every month in equities, which is through mutual funds, and focus on your job, keep working, and you will end up creating wealth, right? Both the ways are absolutely right. The third way is you do it on your own, create your own business, and if your business does well, you will create firstly a business that can last for decades, and secondly, you will create equity for yourself, right? Your business will have a value. Not only the business will earn money for you, it will also have a value. So there are multiple ways of reaching your goal, right? What is the best preferred way for you is what for you to decide. If you want to do it through the second way, but you can always do it, but you have to ensure that you're good at what you're doing. You have interest in what you're doing. You can stick around for the next 20,
Keep
30
upskilling
years.
yourself, probably.
Keep upskilling for yourself, which is missing right now.
Got it. Take me through your journey. Like I know that what you're doing today, but I would like you to tell our audience कि आप यहाँ तक कैसे पहुँचे. 2020 में आपने job quit किया, but what was your journey before that and what happened after that?
So Nimisha, I'll just explain how it all started. Okay, so I'm a chartered accountant by qualification, and right before my CA final exams, my dad passed away. 20 days before my CA final exam. So, but I ended up writing the exam and somehow cleared it. So then after the exams, right, I started looking into the family finances, understanding what is there and what is not. Because until then, I was not taking care of anything at all. And that's when I also started reading about personal finance because they don't teach you this in the CA course or in your BCom course as well. Okay, so then I started understanding ki what is right and what is wrong. Where should you focus with investing? Where should you focus with insurance and so on. So, for example, insurance, right? My dad just had one LIC policy and we got a payout of 10 lakh rupees.
Oh.
He could have had a term insurance and we could have gotten a payout of 1 to 2 crore rupees, whatever, right? So that got me interested in the area of personal finance, and I started managing family money also. So then I also took up a job, right? I continued my job from my articleship in the same firm. I became an employee and continued working with them for the next 5 years. So that's when I figured that the chartered accountant fraternity also does not know how to invest.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just to give you an example, when you invest in a fixed deposit to get the tax exemption under Section 80C, the interest income that you earn is taxable. So if you are in the 30% tax bracket, if you're earning 7% interest, your post-tax return is just 5%.
5%.
And public provident fund gives you 7% without any taxes.
Correct.
So it's a no-brainer to invest in PPF versus an FD. But I would see my fellow colleagues going and buying those FDs. And that's when it struck me that, boss, there is a huge gap in the market wherein people need to know about personal finance. But I didn't do anything immediately because, again, I was very young.
You have to sustain yourself.
And I also had an idea that I will work for a few years. I will accumulate some savings for me, at least to support me for the next few years, and then I will quit and start my own practice. So over the years, I kept on learning, also did a lot of mistakes myself, experienced, figured out what to do, what not to do, and so on. And then I started this business. So now, when you, as an employee who is not well versed with finance, what you will do for your tax return filing, you will go to a CA. For buying insurance, you will go to an insurance advisor. For investments, you will go to an investment advisor. You don't have a setup wherein you get all the services plus more at one place.
Correct.
Right? Barely anybody is providing services for you to manage your credit card expenses, right? Which cards to use, how to optimize them, how to redeem the reward points. Nobody is talking about estate planning, right? You've started working, you're making good money for yourself. You have dependents, you have real estate. How should you think about succession planning, right? Nobody's talking about these things. So we figured that we want to do everything for our clients as far as their finances are concerned. And that's when we set up Holistic Wealth to help you to take care of all aspects of your finances.
Okay.
So when you become my client, I will help you figure out your risk management, what kind of insurances you should have, how much emergency funds you should have. I will help you figure out your investments for your financial goals. So first we'll try to understand what are your financial goals, and based on that, how should we invest? What are the priorities? We'll prioritize the financial goals. Let me give you an example for, as far as prioritizing a financial goal is concerned. You can always live in a rented house, but you cannot live without money in your retirement. Retirement is a priority. You will always get a loan to travel, to buy a car, to buy a house. You will not get a loan for retirement.
Correct.
You have to depend on your kids. Either you depend on your kids or depend on your corpus. So retirement is the retirement saving or financial freedom, you can call it anything. That is the most important financial goal and the topmost priority for anybody. If you are not able to save money for your kids, it's okay. They can borrow and study, right? But you have to make sure that you've saved enough for your retirement, because you don't want to be in a position where you depend on your kids for in your retirement. And also understand one thing: our parents largely worked in government enterprises and are receiving pensions. But that's not the case going forward. Even government employees are not going to get any pensions going forward. They also have to create their own corpuses. Sure that NPS corpus will get created for them, right? So this is how we try to explain the client what is your priority, what should not be your priority, and how should we plan your investments. Then we focus on tax planning, how should we effectively manage your taxes, reduce your tax outflows. Then we focus on credit cards planning, how to use the right set of credit cards to optimize your spends and get rewards on that, and probably travel better. Then we help the client in figuring out how should they think about estate planning. Also, we help our clients in tax filing. So all their income tax returns are also filed by us. We also create the will for them. And we provide constant 24/7 support through our WhatsApp group to all our clients.
Got it. Very interesting. So basically, if somebody comes to you with no amount of income, कितना है उनका वो depend. मतलब do you filter out like that या फिर you're sort
We
of
don't
taking
have any
everybody?
filters. So we're trying to help the salaried segment. The focus is to help the salaried segment and single women, retired people, because they are the most vulnerable
Vulnerable.
to being sold wrong financial products. Okay?
Absolutely.
Because the rich and the wealthy have their own financial advisors. They
Yeah.
have their
Their own
team.
family offices to
They have family
manage.
They don't
Correct.
really need my help. Who needs right now my help is the people who are who can be sold anything at any point in time, or they get carried away and end up buying the wrong set of products just because somebody on social media told them. And that's what you see when a new client comes to us. He will have a P2P product, right? Peer-to-peer lending product in his portfolio. He will have crypto in his portfolio. He will have micro cap stocks in his portfolio. You will find everything in everybody's portfolio. They will have digital gold in their portfolio, but they don't really understand whether these products have fit in their portfolio or not.
So, अगर let's say I come to you today, how would you start? Where would you start? Like, what do you start
So
checking first thing?
the first step, what we would do is we'll first understand your financial background thoroughly. Okay? So we'll understand your personal background. What is your job? How many years of work experience do you have? What is your qualification? We'll try to understand your family's background. What do your parents do? What is their health situation? What is their financial situation? Are they dependent on you, or can they take care of you in case of an emergency? Would they need any help in case of their any health emergency, and so on. So we try to understand these things. Then we try to understand your financial goals. What are the topmost goals that you want to focus on? It may be buying a house, buying a car, retirement, obviously, like we said. Then we understand your income expenses, your assets, liabilities, what insurance policies you have. Basically trying to touch all aspects of your finances and get an understanding. And then we work on a written document for you to help you navigate the next steps.
Okay. So naturally we have segued into investments and that was the last segment that I wanted to talk about. तो एक ये सिनेरियो लेते हैं कि कोई आज के डेट में 25 लाख किसी की सेविंग्स हैं ऑलरेडी इन्वेस्टमेंट्स हैं उसको 1 करोड़ का कॉर्पस बनाना है तो वो कैसे बनाए और फिर एक से अगर 5 बनाना है तो कैसे बनाए व्हाट नीड्स टू चेंज
Okay. Before we discuss this, how much is this guy saving on a monthly basis?
So let's say he's saving about 50,000 rupees.
Okay, perfect. So Nimisha, now let us take two scenarios. एक तो I will not save anything and want my 25 lakhs to turn into 1 crore. How long will it take? So if you take an average nominal growth in GDP of 10 to 11%, your market returns expectation should be of that much only. हम 12% पकड़ लेते हैं for the simplicity of calculations. So when you use the rule of 72, 12% के हिसाब से आपका पैसा हर 6 साल में डबल होता है. 72 divided by the rate of return, which is 12. So मतलब 25 lakh will become 50 lakh in 6 years.
6 years.
And then in another 6 years, 50 will become 1 crore.
तो 12 साल लग जाएगा.
12 साल लग जाएगा. 18% रिटर्न मिला तब भी आपको 8 साल.
8 साल.
ठीक है. 18% मिलना बहुत मुश्किल है, बट सपोज यू आर अ फैंटास्टिक इन्वेस्टर, फिर भी 8 साल लग जाएंगे. बट अगर आपको 5 साल में 1 करोड़ पहुंचना है, what can you do for yourself?
Start investing more every month.
Exactly. ये 50,000 आप पर मंथ जो सेव कर रहे हो, 5 साल में आप 30 लाख सिर्फ प्रिंसिपल में ऐड कर लोगे, राइट? सो इफ योर 25 lakhs becomes 50 lakhs in 5 to 6 years and you have added another 30 lakhs in principal, that will also generate some returns.
Already आपको कुछ 80 lakhs हो गया 6 साल में.
80 lakhs हो गया plus returns on the money that you have invested additionally. Right? So you will hit 1 crore comfortably.
So like within 6 to 8 years very comfortably hit कर सकते हैं.
5 years में आप आराम से पहुंच सकते हो, 3 साल में भी पहुंच सकते हो, provided you focus on the right thing. फोकस सबका क्या है कि मैं 25 लाख पे कितना रिटर्न जनरेट करूं. 25 लाख पे आप अगर 20% भी रिटर्न जनरेट कर लो, so that's only 5 lakhs. But if you are able to increase your savings from 50,000 rupees to 75,000 rupees per month, the incremental 25,000 is 3 lakh rupees a year, which is easier. This is easier because you can focus on
It's
your
at
job.
least in your control.
Exactly. Returns are not in your control. Increasing your income, increasing your savings rate is always in your control. You can do better at your job. You can go talk to your seniors and figure out a way wherein what should you do in the organization to ensure that your income increases by an X percentage. You get your promotions faster. ये सब चीजें आपके कंट्रोल में हैं. आप कोई साइड बिजनेस कर सकते हो, सेकेंड गिग कर सकते हो. दैट इज डिफिकल्ट प्रोबेबली. द बेस्ट थिंग टू डू इज फोकस ऑन योर जॉब. See how you can become the best in what you are doing. Continue to upskill yourself. Become the best among your peers. आपको आराम से प्रमोशन मिलेगा, आपको आराम से 20-30% का जंप मिलेगा और आप आराम से अपनी सेविंग्स को इंक्रीज कर सकते
So basically, saving increase करना is the most underrated, thing to at least get started.
Exactly. People focus on returns. आप जब तक अपना फोकस चेंज नहीं करोगे तब तक आपकी वेल्थ क्रिएशन नहीं होगी. ट्रस्ट मी, विदाउट कैपिटल देयर इज नो कैपिटल मार्केट्स, विदाउट कैपिटल देयर आर नो रिटर्न्स. एंड वेयर इज योर कैपिटल गोइंग टू कम फ्रॉम? कैपिटल इज ओनली गोइंग टू कम फ्रॉम योर प्राइमरी इनकम. If you have 25 lakhs, like I said, even if you make 40% return on that, it's just 10 lakh rupees. But once you've accumulated 10 crore, 1 crore, you make 10% return, that's 10 lakhs.
Correct.
So if you have to figure out a way how fast you can reach that 1 crore corpus.
किसी का 1 करोड़ कॉर्पस अगर रीच हो जाता है, उसके लिए आगे की वेल्थ क्रिएशन जर्नी कितनी आसान हो
बहुत
जाती
इजी
है.
हो जाती है. एक तो आप पर्सनली, नाउ लेट्स टेक एन एग्जांपल वेयरइन यू आर एडिंग 1 लाख रुपीस पर मंथ इन इन्वेस्टमेंट्स
एंड 1 करोड़ का आपका बन चुका है.
पर्पस है.
हाँ.
और आपको 12% का रिटर्न आ रहा है. तो मतलब आप 12% प्रिंसिपल ऐड कर रहे हो 1 लाख पर मंथ के हिसाब से, और 12% रिटर्न आ रहा है, 24% ऐड कर रहे हो आप.
12% प्रिंस. हाँ, ओके.
करेक्ट. सो यू आर एडिंग इंक्रीमेंटली, योर कॉर्पस इज ग्रोइंग बाय 24%. So in 3 years you will double your crore. 1 crore से 2 crore हो जाएगा. फिर उसके बाद आप you will reach a certain point where your savings will become a drop in the ocean. That's where you want to reach. Say once you hit 5 crores, then even if you're saving 1 lakh rupees per month, that's an additional 12 lakh rupees only. 2% of that total corpus. 2 lakhs per month, that's 24 lakhs. 4.5%, 5% of that corpus, right? So वहाँ से returns will play a major part. So then you start figuring out कि what instruments will
maximize
give
कैसे
me a
करना
better
है.
return, right? Sure, you should not be taking very high risk with that money, but optimize your portfolio in a better way. Work with advisors. You should work with an advisor from day one, according to me.
ये इनफैक्ट मेरे लास्ट पॉडकास्ट में भी जहाँ पर मैं फाइनेंशियल मार्केट्स की बात करी थी, दिस वाज द पीस ऑफ एडवाइस दैट केम, दैट स्टार्ट एसएप, राइट? सो ये कमेंट्स में मुझे आया था दैट आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट पीपल हु ऑलरेडी हैव सर्टेन अमाउंट ऑफ सेविंग. सो लेट्स से समबडी हु स्टार्टिंग आउट टुडे, उनकी सैलरी अगर हम पकड़ते हैं 50,000 रुपये है, they want to hit financial freedom, तो खैर थोड़ा दूर है, but let's say they want to hit a decent amount of saving and reach 1 crore. क्या उनको करना चाहिए आज के डेट में? 50,000 में से कितना एक्चुअली में सेव करना चाहिए? Of course the answer is always maximum, लेकिन what is a good comfortable amount to save?
Somebody who does not have any savings, okay, पहले तो आपको इतना समझना है कि टाइम वेस्ट नहीं करना है. मेरे को 50,000 की इनकम को 1 लाख करना है, 1 लाख की इनकम को 2 लाख करना है, राइट? उसके लिए अगर आप कंटिन्यूअसली दूसरों की स्टोरीज पे ही ध्यान दोगे और खुद पे काम नहीं करोगे तो आपका 1 करोड़ नहीं बनेगा. ठीक है, एक बार आपने समझ लिया ये पॉडकास्ट देख के, कोई और पॉडकास्ट देख के कि मुझे मेरे इनकम पे फोकस करना, उसके बाद पॉडकास्ट पे टाइम वेस्ट मत करो, इनकम पे बहुत ध्यान दो. ठीक है, नाउ इट्स अबाउट सेटिंग स्मॉल माइलस्टोन्स. कि फर्स्ट माइलस्टोन इज 5 लाख रुपीस, पहले मैं 5 लाख एक्यूमुलेट करूं, उसके बाद नेक्स्ट इज 25 lakhs, then 50 lakhs. If you set a very big milestone for yourself, you will not be able to achieve it. But when you take steps, right, अगर आपको फर्स्ट फ्लोर से थर्ड फ्लोर पे जाना है और सीढ़ियों से जाना है, लिफ्ट से भी अगर जाना है तो फर्स्ट फ्लोर सेकंड फ्लोर होते भी ही जाना पड़ेगा, राइट? आप डायरेक्टली जंप नहीं लगा सकते फर्स्ट ग्राउंड फ्लोर से थर्ड फ्लोर पे और फर्स्ट फ्लोर से थर्ड फ्लोर. सेम इज विथ योर फाइनेंसेस, सेम इज विथ योर इन्वेस्टमेंट्स, राइट? अगर आपको 0 से 1 करोड़ जाना है तो पहले 5 लाख, 10 लाख, 20 लाख, 50 लाख. So start setting small milestones for yourself, put a dedicated timeline. So it's very important that you set timelines for yourself, right? कि मैं इतने टाइम तक इतना accumulate करूँगा, इतने टाइम तक मुझे मेरी income इतनी चाहिए, and so on. And that's when you will start seeing changes in your financial life.
Okay. When it comes to financial advisory, one of the things जो 2 चीज़ें जो मैंने observe करी है based on my career is one, people don't want to pay for financial advisor because वो लगता है कि यार हम पैसे दे रहे हैं क्या गारंटी है कि मुझे रिजल्ट आएगा, राइट? सो दैट्स वन. सेकेंड थिंग इज ऑल्सो द एक्सपेक्टेशन ऑफ रिटर्न. सो एज वी वर सेइंग कि इवन द मार्केट्स में अगर 12% पे आपको आ रहा है पोस्ट टैक्स, इट्स एक्चुअली अ गुड रिटर्न. लेकिन एक्सपेक्टेशन इज लाइक वेरी हाई. एंड अ लॉट ऑफ टाइम आई मीट पीपल जो बोलते हैं कि मैंने अभी डाला था 2 लाख, वो 2 का 3 हो गया, 2 का 4 हो गया, आई एम गेटिंग ह्यूज रिटर्न्स. सो वाई शुड आई रिलाई ऑन एनी वन एल्स? एंड फॉरगेट एडवाइजर्स. लाइक आई हैव वर्कड ऑन प्लेटफॉर्म्स जो कि प्लेटफॉर्म DIY टाइप के हैं, जो ट्राई कर रहे हैं टू अचीव सिमिलर रिजल्ट्स, एंड दे आर डूइंग फैंटास्टिक जॉब एक्चुअली. बट the resistance to even take that is one, lack of trust, and second is the expectation of return is very skewed. So what's your comment on that?
So the whole approach itself is wrong towards hiring a financial advisor.
Okay.
If you're doing it for returns, don't do it. ठीक है, योर फाइनेंशियल, आप डॉक्टर के पास जाते हो और डॉक्टर ने अगर आपको बोला कि वेट कम करना है या शुगर नहीं खाना है, राइट, देन यू गो टू अ डाइटिशियन और अ जिम ट्रेनर. तो व्हाट इज द रिक्वायरमेंट देयर? That guy keeps you on your toes and ensures that you are not eating sugar, you are consistent with your workouts, right? Same way, a financial advisor is someone who helps you live a good financial life, okay, by ensuring that he is taking care of all aspects, okay. अगर आप रिटर्न चीज कर रहे हो या आपका एडवाइजर रिटर्न सेल कर रहा है, दोनों ही गलत है. अगर कोई एडवाइजर बोलता है कि मैं आपको 18% जनरेट करके दूंगा, ट्रस्ट में उसे भी नहीं पता वो कैसे जनरेट करेगा. उसको आपका पैसा चाहिए, इसीलिए वो आपको प्रॉमिस दे रहा है. सेम प्रॉमिस 50 लोगों को देगा, किसी के रिटर्न्स बनेंगे, किसी के नहीं बनेंगे, डिपेंडिंग ऑन व्हेन दे
गेस वर्क,
राइट. जिसके बन गए वो उसको रेफर करेगा एंड देन दिस बिकम्स अ साइकिल, राइट. यू डोंट वांट टू बी वर्किंग विद दैट काइंड ऑफ एन एडवाइजर, और यू डोंट वांट टू हैव दैट अप्रोच कि मुझे मेरे पैसों पे मैक्सिमम रिटर्न चाहिए. मुझे एक एडवाइजर चाहिए वो होलिस्टिकली कैन टेक केयर ऑफ एवरीथिंग, who can help me invest my money in the right set of places. एक एग्जांपल बताता हूँ. अभी हमारे पास एक क्लाइंट आए हैं, वो एक दूसरे एडवाइजर के साथ काम कर रहे थे, जिन्होंने उनकी इन्वेस्टमेंट्स P2P वाले प्रोडक्ट में करवाया. अब P2P वाला प्रोडक्ट में क्या होता है? You are technically there is a platform that is borrowing money from me and lending money to you, okay, and they are lending money to you at a very high rate of return because they borrowed money from me at 12%. अगर वो मुझे कह रहे हैं कि आप इस प्रोडक्ट में इन्वेस्ट करो, मैं आपको 12% दूंगा, और उन्हें 1-2% उसमें कमाना है, तो आपको तो वो 15% के नीचे लेंड नहीं करेंगे. आप 15% पे क्यों बोरो कर रहे हो? बिकॉज
आपके पास
बैंक्स आपको लोअर रेट पे देने को तैयार नहीं है, क्योंकि आपकी क्रेडिट हिस्ट्री खराब है या आपकी इनकम नहीं है, या यू आर फ्रॉम द लोअर स्ट्रेटा ऑफ द सोसाइटी वेयर यू डोंट हैव दीस थिंग्स, राइट, नॉट ऑर्गेनाइज्ड. Obviously, there is a risk, right? If you're not able
very
to,
high risk.
right, high risk. Because say if you lend to 100 people, because you're lending to individual people, right? So अगर मैं 100 लोगों को अगर lend कर रहा हूँ पैसा, उसमें से 5 भी अगर default कर देते हैं, that means 5% capital wipe out, right?
Correct.
So that means I have taken a high
and
risk.
they are not taking the responsibility for
exactly.
that, right?
So your advisor should not be advising you to invest in these kind of products. That's what we discussed earlier, right? You have to put your investments on the risk spectrum. अगर मुझे फिक्स्ड रिटर्न चाहिए तो मैं एफडी में इन्वेस्ट करूँ, गवर्नमेंट सेविंग्स में इन्वेस्ट करूँ. फिक्स्ड इनकम के लिए मुझे इक्विटी वाला रिस्क नहीं लेना है. फिक्स्ड इनकम के लिए आपको रिस्क, अगर 12% रिटर्न चाहिए तो इक्विटी मार्केट्स में इन्वेस्ट करो आप. So that's the whole point, right? When you approach an advisor, look for somebody who can help you live a comfortable financial life, tell you the truth. कि boss, your expectations are wrong. You can't send your kids to Ivy League schools and have a fantastic retirement for yourself and drive a Mercedes, right? Problem is people have goals जहाँ पे and attached है.
And
आपको और डालना है, या तो ये या फिर ये या फिर ये, क्योंकि सबकी लिमिटेड इनकम है. इवन अ बिजनेसमैन हैज अ लिमिटेड इनकम बेस्ड ऑन हिज नीड्स एंड बेस्ड ऑन हिज एक्सपेंसेस. तो उसके हिसाब से आपको चलना है और उसको प्रायोरिटाइज करना है. दैट्स व्हाट योर गुड एडवाइजर विल टेल यू कि यू हैव टू प्रायोरिटाइज ऑन. वी हैव हैड क्लाइंट्स वेयर वी हैड टू टेल देम दैट you cannot send your kids to international schools. You have to cut down on your budget.
how do they take these kind of advices?
It's hard for them to digest. I'm 100% sure about it. But then when you don't have money, you don't have money. We have to tell them ki sure, you continue to work on your income. If your income increases, then we can always do what you want to do, right? But otherwise, you have this base expectation that you can only do this much. If your child wants to go to an international school, you have to tell him to borrow money. You cannot risk your retirement money on that. So these are the harder conversations we need to have. Selling real estate is another hard conversation that we have with our clients. One client who onboarded with us 3 years back, he went into credit card debt to finance a house purchase.
Wow.
और उसका वो घर अभी तक नहीं बिका है, 3 साल हो गए।
ओके।
लोगों को ये नहीं समझ में आता कि रियल एस्टेट खरीदना बहुत आसान है,
बेचना
बेचना
बहुत
उतना
मुश्किल।
ही डिफिकल्ट है।
हम्म।
अभी मैं चाहूँ मैं 10 रियल एस्टेट डील साइन कर सकता हूँ, बट वो सेम 10 प्रॉपर्टीज आपको बेचने में 10 साल भी लग सकते हैं,
हम्म।
right? So that's why you need to be very cautious with what you do, and that's when you need to find the right advisor and then listen to what they're saying. One more example I'll tell you. One client onboarded with us, they had paid an advance of 7.5 lakhs for another property purchase. They had already had a couple of properties. Both of them were in tech jobs. We told them, you are taking very high risk with your finances. Please let go of this investment. अगर वो आपको 50% पैसा भी देता है, आप ये बुकिंग कैंसिल कर दो।
Okay.
And they did that. They cancelled, and 3-4 months later, one of the members lost their jobs.
Okay.
Right? तो वहाँ पे now they are very thankful to us that we told them this at the right time. And
आपने क्यों उनको बोला वो
simply
cancel
because
करने?
अगर वो रियल एस्टेट परचेज कर लेते तो फिर उनका रिटायरमेंट गोल, उनकी किड्स एजुकेशन गोल, ये सब नहीं पूरे होते।
अच्छा।
तो रियल एस्टेट हैज अ प्लेस, हैज अ राइट टाइम इन योर पोर्टफोलियो। अनदर क्लाइंट वर्किंग इन कैनेडा, okay, told them not to add more real estate. You don't need to add more. You have a fantastic opportunity to create financial assets for yourself. बट हमारे से बिना डिस्कस किए वो अक्टूबर में इंडिया आए थे, उन्होंने 2 प्रॉपर्टीज खरीद ली।
अच्छा।
और अब नवंबर में उनका जॉब लॉस हो गया।
Oh damn.
तो it's all about you understanding the risk that you carry in your finances. As a businessman, as a business owner, I can take more risk compared to a salaried guy today, simply because you have a very big risk of job loss. Now, इसमें भी as a chartered accountant, risk of job loss is very low. As a doctor, you will not lose your job. But if you are somebody in the tech industry, very high risk of job. You have to assess and understand आप कौन से जॉब में हो और उसका probability क्या है जॉब लॉस का, उसके बाद आप अपने फाइनेंशियल रिस्क लो।
सो ये सारी कॉन्वर्सेशन ऑनेस्टली सोशल मीडिया पे हो नहीं रही है बिकॉज एवरीथिंग लुक्स लाइक कि बहुत ही रोजी पिक्चर पेंट किया जा रहा है, राइट? दीज आर द टफ कॉन्वर्सेशंस आई थिंक जो एज अ financial advisor perhaps you are having with your clients. Very interesting because one of the goals of this podcast is to have conversations which are honest and real. So thank you
this
for
is before we end, right? This is a very interesting point that you brought up, that social media पे ये conversations हो नहीं रही है. I'll give you a couple of things before we end the conversation.
I have few more questions.
Okay.
हाँ.
So there is a very popular journalist who tweeted a couple of days back that instead of becoming a financial advisor, you should start becoming a content creator, because there is more money there. इंडिया लाइक जैसे आपने पहले पूछा था ना कि इंडिया में लोग फीस देने को तैयार नहीं है। That's true. That's why हमारा business model भी वैसा है, wherein we earn a commission on the mutual funds, right? Because otherwise I will not be able to sustain.
Right.
We have created a win-win model for the client and us. It cannot happen that the client is winning and we are losing. I will not be able to sustain my life, right? So now that debate ki should you become a financial advisor or should you become a content creator? If I become a content creator, I will want to tell you things that you want to listen.
Correct.
And which makes me money. I will not tell you the hard truths that you want to listen, right? So you definitely need a financial advisor. Financial influencers on social media have a very limited role to play. You go to my YouTube channels and see certain videos where I'm talking about the good stuff, the generic stuff which people need to implement will not have many views. But where I'm talking about getting 20% rewards on a credit card, or say loan against a mutual fund wherein you can save taxes, you will have high number of views.
So जो हमें fascinating लगता है उस पे definitely view ज़्यादा आता है. बिल्कुल. Even if it may or may not apply to us.
Correct. So the thing is, social media has a very limited role in your finances compared to a financial advisor. Everybody should have a financial advisor, even a financial advisor, like any other coach, right? A fitness coach has their own fitness coach. I am into long distance running. My coach also has a coach. So then you have a family doctor, you have a doctor you go to, you will take advice for nutrition, you will take advice for fitness, you will take, why should you not take advice for finances, which is the most critical aspect of your life?
True.
Why do you think that you know everything?
True.
It's just something to think about.
Absolutely. So the other question that I wanted to ask was around the expectation of returns, right? Which was the second thing. कि क्यों लोग फाइनेंशियल एडवाइजर्स के पास नहीं जाते या फिर जाते भी हैं तो एक्सपेक्टेशन बहुत स्क्यूड होती है. सो वन करंट मार्केट सिचुएशन में, आई नो दैट दिस कॉन्वर्सेशन वोंट होल्ड लेट्स से अ मंथ फ्रॉम नाउ, 2 months from now, बट how should one set their expectation with respect to their investments, and especially talking about the stock market equity
Got it.
investments?
When you plan your finances, right, you have to first create an expectation of how much you need for a particular goal. So let's say you need 5 crores for your retirement. Now you will invest your money in different places. Okay, let's say you invest some money in 60% of your income in equity markets, so mutual funds, some money in public provident fund, some employees provident fund, and some in national pension scheme. पब्लिक प्रोविडेंट फंड, एम्प्लॉइज प्रोविडेंट फंड, फिक्स्ड रेट ऑफ रिटर्न, वी नो मुझे कितना मिलेगा.
करेक्ट.
मार्केट्स में फिक्स्ड रेट ऑफ रिटर्न नहीं है. मार्केट्स डू नॉट ओ अस एनीथिंग.
करेक्ट.
सो एक्सपेक्टिंग कि मार्केट से मुझे गारंटीड रिटर्न मिलेगा इज अ रॉन्ग एक्सपेक्टेशन, राइट? सो when
Neeraj, I've had conversation with clients, like literal fights, saying that मेरे को एक कंपनी ने बोला है कि मेरे को 40% रिटर्न मिलेगा और उन्होंने मुझे दिया है, मैं 2 महीने से एसोसिएटेड हूँ. आप जब कह रहे हो कि डोंट एक्सपेक्ट एनी गारंटीज, विल ट्राई टू मैक्सिमाइज, बट हमारा बेंचमार्क जो है वो 10%, 12% जो भी रहा है कंपनी का बेंचमार्क, they're not willing to buy this conversation, whereas we know कि in all honesty this is the right conversation to have because you're not trying to mislead the client. मैं वो एड्रेस करना चाहती हूँ कि वो माइंडसेट जो है, मतलब हम कितनी बार भी ये बोल दें कि नहीं आपकी एक्सपेक्टेशन गलत है, बट ये क्यों है, मतलब ये क्या हो रहा है?
ये इसलिए है क्योंकि nobody wants to do the hard work and they want to get rich overnight. सिंपल सी बात है. यू सी देयर इज अ वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग स्टडी. जो लॉटरी टिकट्स खरीदते हैं ना, जो इस कंट्रीज में लॉटरी लीगल है, वहाँ पे ये स्टडी किया गया है कि जो भी लॉटरी टिकट खरीदता है, दे आर ऑल पीपल फ्रॉम द लोअर सेगमेंट ऑफ द सोसाइटी.
करेक्ट.
And they spend 30 to 50% of their monthly income on lottery tickets because they think that that lottery will change their life overnight, right? Do you see any wealthy people buying lottery or playing in the casino? No. Why? Because they know that this is not going to make them money. They may buy a lottery ticket on a one-off basis just for enjoyment, right? But they're not doing it every
As an
month,
investment, yeah, as
right?
an expectation to become rich from
correct?
that.
So here the expectation, ये ऐसा नहीं है कि जो कम कमाता है या जिसके पास कम पैसे हैं वो उसकी एक्सपेक्टेशन है. इवन पीपल विथ हाई नेटवर्क्स हैव दीज एक्सपेक्टेशंस. तो जिनके पास नहीं है उन्हें ये समझना है कि ना तो मार्केट्स ना लॉटरी टिकट्स आपको पैसे कमा के देगा, आपको अपनी इनकम बढ़ानी है, आपको फिगर आउट करना है कि वो कैसे बढ़े. और जिनके पास है उन्हें फाइनेंशियल मार्केट्स को समझना है कि मार्केट्स कैसे काम करते हैं. नाउ फॉर दैट यू नीड टू गो एंड स्टडी हिस्ट्री, राइट? इवन इफ आई टेल यू दैट मार्केट्स डोंट से, हिस्ट्री का ही एग्जांपल ले लेते हैं. 1994 to 2004 इंडियन मार्केट्स गिव जीरो रिटर्न्स.
Really?
Yes.
Zero net returns.
Zero returns. So now how many people were invested in, how many people could stay invested during that period? Now what if the Indian markets for the next 10 years do not give any return? Say आज निफ्टी 26,000 पे है, at the end of 10 years निफ्टी goes to 50,000 for example, that's 6-7% annualized returns, right? FD से भी कम. 50,000 30-40,000 पे अगर रह जाता है, can you guarantee me that you will continue with your SIPs for the next 10 years? Because after 10 years, Nifty could go from 50,000 to 2 lakhs in the next 5 years. And that could take care of all your returns.
तो ये कैसे अप्रोच करना चाहिए अनसर्टेनिटी? बिकॉज यू आर राइट, वी डोंट नो कि मार्केट कैसे बिहेव करने वाला है. इफ आई एम अ लॉन्ग टर्म इन्वेस्टर, आई एम विलिंग टू स्टे इन्वेस्टेड फॉर अ लॉन्ग टर्म, गिवन दैट मेरे पैसे डूबे नहीं, बिकॉज दैट्स लाइक द प्री रिक्विजिट, राइट? या एटलीस्ट मुझे पोस्ट इन्फ्लेशन कुछ तो रिटर्न मिले, पॉजिटिव रिटर्न मिले. सो yeah, what should I be doing right now?
So obviously, firstly, understanding कि markets don't owe you anything, कि market में zero return भी बन सकता है, negative return भी बन सकता है, बहुत ज़्यादा return भी बन सकता है. अगर आपको वो समझ में आ गई है बात, और आपके पास, if you have 2-3 decades of your investment horizon, then all you need to do is just invest in a disciplined manner on a month-on-month basis in a diversified portfolio of equities. When I say diversified, it has to have large caps, mid caps, small caps, higher concentration of large caps, little lower concentration of mid caps, and then even lower concentration of small caps. लोगों को क्या है, सब mid caps और small caps में लगे पड़े हैं. Small caps में लगे हैं क्योंकि ज़्यादा returns बनेगा वहाँ पे. Then
ये अभी भी हो रहा है नीरज. Very surprised to be honest. Okay.
People think कि market owes them returns. Then once you've done this, then fixed income also has a role in your portfolio. You need to have contribute to your public provident fund and employees provident fund. You should be focused on tax saving. Abhi, for example, NPS में, if you contribute through your employer, if you're in the old regime, you can contribute 10% of your basic salary. If you're in the new regime, you can contribute 14% of your basic salary. Now that saves tax for you because that contribution does not get added to your income. Now if you're in the highest tax bracket, say 30% plus tax bracket, you'll save 30% on that contribution. Where is this money getting invested? In the same places where you would invest after paying tax,
Correct.
which is in mutual funds,
Equities, yeah.
You're better off putting that money, right? You anyways don't need it till your retirement. Then why are you not doing it? Why is the fear that मेरा मन पैसा लॉक इन हो जाएगा? आपको तो कैसे भी लॉन्ग टर्म के लिए करना है इन्वेस्ट. आप टैक्स तो बचाओ पहले.
Correct.
जो आपके हाथ में पैसा बच रहा है उसको बचा नहीं रहे हो. Right, and then you expect markets to give you a return. Not a good way to approach financial planning. Right. First, you see where you can save money. Then you have an expectation that markets will give me some returns.
Very interesting. And what is a good return rate to expect? Let's say if for the next 10 years.
10 to 12% should be your benchmark. Nothing beyond.
Indian markets.
Indian markets, global
based on the
markets,
valuation
everywhere.
होगा,
Global markets even lower, but Indian market expect to see the thumb rule is that real GDP growth plus inflation. If real GDP growth is 6 to 7% and inflation is between 3 to 5%, that should be your expectation, right? 9 to 12%. So
नहीं, I'm asking कि based on whatever you have studied so far, आपको लगता है कि अगले 10 साल 15 साल इंडियन मार्केट्स में आएंगे ऐसे परसेंटेज? इतना मतलब we are talking about 10-12% only.
Yes, if the nominal GDP growth comes through and markets don't run up ahead of their valuations, then you can expect those returns. Now let's say that Nifty यहाँ से double हो जाता है over the next 10 years. Then the returns for the next 8 years could be very low because markets have given you front-loaded the returns. That's why I tell everybody who is starting their investment journey to not expect returns. पर लोग क्या करते हैं, आज SIP स्टार्ट किया, 3 महीने SIP करेंगे, फिर बोलेंगे अरे तो रिटर्न ही नहीं
नहीं, वो तो खैर मैं तो 10 साल की होराइजन की बात कर रही हूँ.
को ये समझ, आप ऐसे सोचो ना कि अगर मैं 3 महीने में SIP कर दी मैंने, अगर मैंने 1 लाख की भी SIP 3 लाख ही जोड़े, 10 लाख में मैं 1 करोड़ 20 लाख, 10 साल में अगर मैं 1 करोड़ 20 लाख जोड़ूंगा, तो आर यू बेटर ऑफ getting returns after you have accumulated that 1 crore, or are you better off getting returns today when you have not invested anything?
Correct.
Obviously when you have accumulated some money, right?
Correct.
But people want markets to give you returns from day one. You can't expect anything to, अगर आप front loading of returns expect करोगे तो future returns कम रहेंगे, which means आपको आपके कम capital पे return मिलेगा. जब आपकी कैपिटल ज्यादा
होगी, कितने भी आपको रिटर्न मिल जाए, आपका कैपिटल इतना छोटा है कि इट्स नॉट गोइंग टू इम्पैक्ट यू.
विदाउट if there is no capital, there are no capital markets. Accumulate capital, focus on capital, which is through your income.
Very interesting. I think for somebody like you who's actually building a business around financial advisory and making money on investments, but you're coming, upfront and saying कि भाई focus on your capitals. That
exactly.
itself speaks
We don't
volume.
even onboard clients who come with a return expectation. If they ask us that कितना return करा के दोगे, we say we are not the right people for you. Maybe you look for somebody else. Simply because return market बना के देगा, हम नहीं बना के देंगे.
Correct.
Market return जब बना के देगा when it goes up. Now our goal is to create a portfolio of mutual funds for you which will beat that. So if market is falling, my portfolio should fall less than that. If market is rising, my portfolio should rise more than that. That's our goal. मार्केट 5 बनाएगा तो आपका पोर्टफोलियो 6-7 बना सकता है. अगर मार्केट 10% से गिरेगा तो आपका पोर्टफोलियो 6-7% गिरेगा. दैट इज माय गोल. माय गोल इज नॉट टू प्रॉमिस यू एनी पर्टिकुलर परसेंटेज ऑफ रिटर्न.
And in that course make you achieve your financial goals.
So financial, अगर suppose 20 years में आपको 5 crores accumulate करना है, मार्केट अगर 5% ही देगा, अगर मार्केट 5% ही देता है, तो आपको तो अपनी इनकम से वो आपको तो गोल हिट करना ही है ना. तो यू हैव टू मेक श्योर दैट यू अर्न दैट मच मनी, राइट? यू कांट डिपेंड, यू कांट 20 इयर्स लेटर यू कांट से कि भाई नीरज ने रिटर्न नहीं बना के दिए इसलिए मेरा गोल मीट नहीं हुआ. मार्केट ने नहीं बना के दिए.
बट यू आर स्टिल बेटर ऑफ not keeping the money in your bank account.
100%. Because nobody should keep money. I keep only 20,000-30,000 in my bank account at all times.
अच्छा.
Every penny gets invested. Why? Because जब मैं बैंक अकाउंट में ज्यादा पैसे रखता हूँ, सपोज आपका जो एवरेज इंटरेस्ट रेट है 3% का है सेविंग्स अकाउंट में, उस पे भी आपको टैक्स
भरना पड़ता है.
पोस्ट टैक्स रिटर्न इज 2%. देन मेरा फिक्स्ड इनकम इन्वेस्टमेंट भी मुझे 7-8% देगा विदाउट टैक्स. सो आई एम बेटर ऑफ मूविंग मनी. वी हैव सो मेनी क्लाइंट्स हु कीप होल्ड lakhs and crores in their bank account.
Really?
Yes.
So basically all this conversation जो financial awareness हमको लग रहा है कि आ गया, वो अभी तक आया नहीं है.
Financial awareness, financial literacy, starting from somebody who is making less money or more money to somebody who is making crores, you can say that there may be a situation where a guy who is making 25,000 rupees per month has more financial literacy than a guy who is making 10 crores per year.
Very interesting.
Because financial literacy is about understanding how money works and understanding how risk works, right? Making money is one skill, managing money and keeping that money is another skill.
Very interesting. So on that note, we'll end our conversation, Neeraj. Any last thoughts for our audience? अगर आप उनको कुछ कहना चाहते हो या anything that you have on your mind. We spoke so much, but
yeah, I mean it was a very interesting conversation. Anybody, right? Don't firstly you need to change your mindset about money, right? The best way to do it is by reading books. Because no amount of social media influencing is going to change your opinion, because one person may say something, the other person may say something, and you will not be able to figure out who to trust. But the people who are writing books are generally giving you good advice.
कौन सी book recommend करेंगे?
कोई भी, like we'll start with say Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel, a great book to start with. Rich Dad Poor Dad, even though Robert Kiyosaki has a very bad reputation, but that is one book that laid the foundation for me.
Yeah,
Fantastic
totally.
book.
To even start, you think in that direction,
Exactly. Right? That you
Yeah.
need to create assets for yourself. And then obviously you start talking to people, start talking to people who have done something good in their financial lives, understand how they have done. Don't get attracted towards people who trade a lot when you have a full-time job. Because what happens is then you think that ये अगर ट्रेडिंग में 20-30% साल का कमा रहा है तो मैं भी कर सकता हूँ. And lot of people quit their jobs and started doing full-time trading, and now I've lost money and not able to get jobs as well. So that is also another thing. And then work with an advisor, because trust me, your financial life will be much better in 3 to 5 years once you start working with a good financial advisor. You will be able to focus on your job. You will be able to spend enough time with family. अभी क्या होता है ना, लोग मंडे टू फ्राइडे काम करते हैं, शाम को आके स्टॉक मार्केट के बारे में पढ़ते हैं, रिसर्च करते हैं, स्क्रॉल करते हैं, रील्स देखते हैं, वीकेंड्स में भी वही करते हैं. You don't get time to spend, because but when you can do it, just automate your investments and let markets do their job. You do your job. You don't have to look at, if somebody who is financially savvy may not need a financial advisor, has to only look at their finances once a year or twice a year probably. If you are that savvy, then good enough. Don't need an advisor. But then otherwise everyone should look for an advisor.
Okay. Thank you so much, Neeraj, for this very candid and interesting conversation. And I think जिन्होंने भी सुना, जो भी पूरा सुनेंगे ये पॉडकास्ट, उनको उनके माइंडसेट में डेफिनेटली शिफ्ट होगा. एंड सेकेंडली, आई थिंक अ लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स टू पिक अप फ्रॉम नगेट्स ऑफ विजडम वर स्प्रेड अक्रॉस दिस. सो थैंक यू सो मच फॉर डूइंग दिस.
Thank you, Nimisha. Thank you for